Sup nerds, the winners, you podcasters are back to worm our way into your ear holes, or worm our way out, cockroach our way out, I guess, based on this. I don't know. That is tenuous, but we're going with it for another episode of the most popular podcast on the internet, the Winners You podcast. I've already said that. This week we've decided it's time for a little, I guess, like psychological horror with the eternally unsettling "No, I'm Not Human." But before that, I'm still David. He's still Alex. And how are you doing today, Alex? I see you've got a strong gaming t-shirt on the go as always.
So, you alone?
No.
Good. I can hear people whispering, so I know you're not.
I didn't realise, there's one thing, this is not to dive into the game too quickly, but sometimes when you go past people's doors at night, you can hear them like giggling and speaking to themselves. I never picked up on any of that at any point. I must have just been beelining for doors all the time.
Yeah, I heard the stoner guy quite a lot. Seemed to be giggling to himself. I'd imagine they would do that.
Yeah.
I'm all right. I'm all right.
No giggle, no here. Well, you've got a kid. You probably
I'm alone, though.
Yeah, you are alone.
So he's not getting in.
He's not getting in. I was going to say, because I remember I would have been I was younger. It must have been like 17, 18 or whatever when the first, it was maybe the second Paranormal Activity came out. And I remember speaking to my mum, and I'd gone to see it at the cinema and thinking that I was like, the scariest part of the movie is that girl just standing in the doorway staring at her parents, like the little girl that is possessed. Mm-hmm. And mum was like, kids do that. And I was like, oh God. And to this day, I've avoided it. So you must get terrifying things that kids do.
She doesn't do that. If she was to come in the night, which is actually really good. Like, we seem to have set a rule of just shout someone and then somebody will come. Like, don't leave your room. So part of that might be a fear of the dark on her behalf. But either way, it comes up trumps for us. She just sort of yells and then somebody has to go in. So yeah, she hasn't done that as of yet. But that is a future sleep paralysis demon in waiting, I think.
Any giggling behind doors happening?
She will fully play out a scenario. At the moment, the game that she likes to play the most is Demon Elephant. So there's an elephant. Right. She's got a toy elephant. That's a demon. She's a demon hunter.
Oh, right, okay.
So the game then is like you have to just kill it with her. So I've actually got some audio from behind. This is with my dad. This is with her granddad. So this is behind the door. You might be able to hear this. Hold on.
It's silent so far. Your noise.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, your noise gate's having none of it.
All right, let me send it to you. Because I'm pretty sure at one point in there she says something about having to kill my dad. It's quite funny.
Nothing else for it. He's got to go.
It's quite appropriate actually for this game, isn't it? That I kind of have to deal with the fact that my daughter likes now to refer to things as being killed or being dead, but then she doesn't understand that that's what actually means. Sorry, she doesn't understand what that actually means when something is killed or is dead. So she'll just say, "Oh yeah, but then they'll be all right though." They're like, "Oh, they'll be dead then." Yeah, they'll be dead, but then we'll see them next week. Okay. Yeah, have a listen to that.
Oh my God.
The only part you can hear from my dad is, "Oh, be careful." He's done something.
So is your dad
to him?
Is your dad in there with her?
Yeah. So she's barricaded my dad in there with her, and just thrown an elephant at him, as far as I can tell, and then screamed at him that she's going to kill him. Again, quite appropriate for this game.
Two secs.
There is an elephant in the room.
My phone is ringing. That actually wasn't. That was great. She was offering me a coffee from Costa, so yeah, I'll let her off for that one.
Can't. Yeah, we'll keep that in then.
Yeah,
just to show how good a personality was just then.
I guess there's nothing left for it. I'm interested to talk about this game. I think there's the potential that we can strike some interesting chat about this game. I am also interested to hear about your interpretations and feelings on different characters and endings within this game. I think it's going to be a fun and interesting one. But I guess I don't know about fun. But ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to go a bit dark and bleak here, boys. Yeah.
Total 100% spoilers for No, I'm Not a Human, which is not a long game. So go and play that first. Don't listen to this if you haven't played it, which basically means we're going to get four listens.
Yeah. Probably.
It's cheap. It's like £8.50 on Loaded. Just go get it.
Exactly. Genuinely, just go and pick this game up because it's worth your time. It's presented on Wikipedia as a visual novel. Which I suppose it is.
It's almost like a what do you call it? Kind of like an inventory management sim, but the inventory is people / ghosts or whatever they are, alien, mutant, zombies.
Yes. I will say that the way this game. So for those that wait a minute, I'll do my intro. Then we'll talk about how the game ties itself together. This was released. This is a fairly new game for the Winners You lot to be covering. It was released the 15th of September 2025. It's only on Steam as far as I can tell. It's a developer called Triocaz, and the publisher is a company called Critical Reflex. So I don't know how this game came onto your radar, Alex, but for me, I was reading PC Gamer magazine, and I think I've told you this already, but for the benefit of the listeners, I was reading an article on PC Gamer magazine, which it was an article about how AAA games aren't necessarily and shouldn't be the be-all and end-all for video games. And as the sort of video game playing population gets older, or at least the age range stretches, that there are a lot of people exactly. There's a lot of people that have got less time and less interest in playing these 100-hour games that are going to monopolize your time and be designed in a way to keep you coming back and back and back. So this publisher, Triocaz, had come. They are dedicating themselves to publishing shorter, more interesting, cheap games that are not always, but often made by single or double development teams, as in like 1 or 2, 3, 4 people, that have an interesting idea and will sort of come in, explore that idea, and then exit without staying too long within the sort of sub 10-hour mark.
Yeah, they published Mouthwashing, actually. Critical Reflex.
Yeah, so they did Mouthwashing. There's one that I'm going to check out at some point soon that looks really interesting, called Iron Lung, in which you are a prisoner that has been sent to Mars. It's basically a death sentence, but you're sent to Mars to...
Is that by the developer?
This is the publisher. Sorry,
I'm not seeing that on the Critical Reflex Wikipedia page.
It's perhaps... maybe just one that the article mops up then as another example. I have spoken to you before about it. There's a guy that's just made a film about it.
Oh, right, okay.
But basically, you get sealed inside this submarine on Mars, and you've got to float around under this blood sea and take pictures of odd things under the sea, which is another example of a sort of game like this. But one of the breakout games of this sort of new, it's not new, but sort of focused push.
That guy did Dusk.
Ah, okay. There you go. That is another good game. So this is No, I'm Not Human is one of the breakouts for that. The idea being that I think so. This guy, I was looking at this guy's sort of back catalogue, and he seems to have released collections up to this point. And this one is a sort of this is an idea that he's already had and sort of released in different forms over the last couple of years, but he's now sort of taken all these ideas, put them together into one larger game, which is still a small game, and released it as a single package.
So is it just one bloke? Is it this?
So it seems to be 2 people. There's Triocaz seems to be 2 people.
Roman Kozubchenko and Nikita Veta.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it's classified as a horror / visual novel. I would go one step further. I think it's a psychological horror from every aspect. I think from the visuals to the music to the way in which the game constantly challenges your perception of what's happening around you.
It doesn't actually, and doesn't really play by its own rules to that end as well.
No, absolutely. I think from the ground up, it's designed to unsettle the player. Whether that's like the sort of odd proportions of a lot of the characters, to the slightly off kilter design of the house. Like the doors will be slightly squint. Things will be just it. What is it called? What's that thing called where people are able to? It's such a common phrase in video games parlance, where we are good at spotting humans that aren't acting quite like humans. What's that term? Do you know the one I'm talking about, or are you just absolutely? Am I talking nonsense and you're absolutely blanking?
I'm absolutely blanking. Anthropomorphism? No. That's when you
term for
dehumanization,
being able to spot humans that are slightly off. Uncanny Valley.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I think the whole thing.
Let's make that into a sentence where we didn't act like idiots. Start all over again.
Like from the ground up, from the oddly designed human beings to the windows and doors that are just off shape. There's a certain uncanny valley that seems designed to throw the player off and make them feel unsettled from top to bottom, whether that's the gameplay, the visuals, the art style, or the music. I think
it's very difficult to know if you're doing well.
Yeah.
Or if you're winning, or when the game is actually going to end until you've done it one time through. Like, there is really no winning at this game.
No, and I think even I was watching a few videos on that, and you've already touched on a couple of things that I picked up in different videos, and there really is no winning. There was one video that I watched that discussed about how the game is designed to consider just that your only sort of objective is to survive and find a way to make it to the next night without dying.
That is it. Yeah,
and how it sort of begins to dehumanize everything around you, whether it's the people you're speaking to. You cease to see them as people and start thinking about them as these objects that you're using, in a way that.
I could actually say that to somebody at one point. I can't remember who it is. Oh, I think it's that like Cockney gangster. You can say to him that you're only keeping people there so that the pale visitor doesn't come back and take you. Mm-hmm. And he just has a massive go at you for using everybody like objects for your own fear.
I can see we're gonna jump around all over this. So I think again,
it's kind of difficult not to.
It is absolutely difficult not to. But so again, just for the purposes of the listener. A quick premise of this game is you sort of wake up and your door's knocking. You go and you answer the door, and it's your neighbor who is saying that something's happening around the world. People are dying, in the world that seems to be falling apart, and that part of staying alive seems to be able to allow people into your house because there's a safety in numbers. So he stays over with you that night, and when you wake up,
also there's the solar activity.
That's
basically
right.
just gone to catastrophic levels where the sun is effectively burning people alive in the street
during
the day.
So
we all become nocturnal.
You do. So he stays over, and then during that he gives you a sort of intro into the game. And the basic sort of loop of the game is you wake up during the day, in which you're allowed to go around your house, interact with different things, listen to the radio, watch TV, speak to people that you've let into your house, ask them questions, and run tests on them to see if they are visitors or not, which seems to be a parlance for aliens, at least sort of the other that is not the humans within the game. And then you do that, you exhaust yourself because of the heat. You can't actually do very much through the day. So then you go to bed and you wake up at night, in which case the sort of second part of the game loop manifests itself, in which you're able to look outside your windows, see what's happening in the world around you, and also go to your door and speak to these I keep wanting to call them visitors, but because they are, but also the term visitor means something else in this game. They're guests, I guess. And you speak to them, hear a bit about their story, and decide whether or not you're going to let them into your house or not, and then sort of further the dialogue and get to them a bit better with the sort of give and take and the constant threat that they may be one of these visitors that could end up killing people in your house or you, or even infect you to make you become a visitor.
Is there any? Is there? I guess there isn't any actual scenario where you will actually be killed by a visitor in your house at night while you're asleep, is there? From what I've found, you can be killed if you challenge some of them enough, based on you get these every day. The TV and the government will update the populace on ways to spot a visitor, and you can test the people in your house for those characteristics and shoot them if you feel that they fall into those of the visitor. And there are some that will challenge you back and will kill you, or will pull a gun on you at least if you do that to them. But I don't think you can actually be killed by anybody other than the vigilante or the pale visitor. Is that right?
So my sort of I think you may be correct, because I did try and figure this out. So in the game, my notes here: no, I'm not human. You can be killed by a visitor at night if you have at least 2 visitors in your home. While visitors generally kill 1 human guest each night, once the threshold is met, the player's own bedroom is considered safe, allowing you to avoid immediate death. That doesn't really make any sense, that sentence. Thank you, Google AI. Let me find out. I feel like we need to get this right. The visitors are the primary threat, blah, blah, blah. If the player lets in 2 or more visitors, they will begin to kill any humans present in the house, eventually killing the protagonist. Little is known about visitors currently. That's not equivocal though. It doesn't definitely say yes or no, does it? Because that might spark an ending. Because you do get one of the endings that you can get is the dream ending, in which basically you go to sleep and don't wake up. So, which I'm assuming that's kind of that, but also not quite.
Yeah, I mean,
this is tough. I spent honestly hours prepping for this podcast and trying to.
Are you looking at the No, I'm Not a Human wiki? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sort of flitting between that and the Steam pages.
Eventually killing the protagonist. Yeah, I mean, I never felt like that was going to happen to my character, but I could be wrong, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess like,
but primarily they're going to kill anybody else in the house. I wonder if it's just you and a visitor. Maybe you are up for.
This is one thing. Did you figure out on your? Because I did. This is probably my dumbness. But did you figure out on your own that you had to have 2 visitors in your house before they started killing? I didn't until I started reading about it.
I didn't realize that either. I thought if it was just one that you would do. It was just, I think, why the cat lady, who is always a visitor in this game, but appears to be, well, depending on which ending you're trying to get, you should have her in the house at least to get the cat in there. Maybe she was the only visitor that I had for a long time then, because she wasn't killing anyone. And for the first playthrough I played, like, I was convinced that she wasn't. To me, she was too weird to be a visitor. And I took her picture, and her aura, she had like a halo around her head. So I was like, well, she's obviously some kind of cat-giving angel lady. I won't kill her. And then I must have let another one in, and yeah, people kept dying, and I kind of narrowed it down and thought, oh, it must be this one then. She obviously is, but I didn't get to the point where she dances.
I was going to say,
out of the way.
Did you get the old dodging the bullets thing?
No, I wish I did though. I wish I did.
Yeah, so did I. I guess before we start diving off, what's your general takeaway feelings of this game? Like positive, negative, mixed? Are you is it sticking with you? What's your sort of overall emotions when it comes to this game?
Absolutely sticking with me. It will do for a very long time. I've thought about it a lot while we've been when I've not been playing it. I've told people about it. This is the kind of thing that comes out of the indie sphere that I really appreciate. This has a real air of something like Papers, Please to it, almost as well in terms of the way the gameplay works and the way that it tries to paint societal unrest and issues and maybe deeper psychological things and gamify them. I am somebody, as I assume you are as well, but I am definitely somebody who has had in periods of my life like a sort of profound existential fear of death through no actual immediate threat, which is obviously what this game then tries to portray and tries to paint a picture of how do people deal with a very natural and very common fear of death when it's actually basically outside your front door or maybe even inside your own house. So it spoke to me quite profoundly in that sense of the way that it talks about different ways of dealing with this fear of death. You know, it's going on about religion. It's going on about how people try to weaponize the fear of death, like the FEMA agents, how people create cycles of violence from death, like the vigilante, from fear of death, like the vigilante. And then you add on top of that the visual style of it with all the, like, I'm desperate to know if these well, not just the visitors, as you said, if all the NPCs in this game are fully hand drawn or if they are kind of manipulated pictures, because sometimes they can look almost photorealistic, and
especially at the beginning, the sort of intro cutscene seemed like it was almost FMV.
That I think that was, okay. But also they kind of like superimpose like the guy's daughter in there and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, I hope for the sakes of whoever it was that was involved in the making of this that these aren't photos of real people, because they are hideously ugly, every single one of them. So that's what kind of, when you suggested this game to us, when you brought it up, I'd remembered seeing it, and when we looked at it, all you have to do is basically just like look at the Steam video for it and think, fuck yeah, I need to see what this is, because this is horrible to look at. I want to dig into this. I mentioned earlier how the game doesn't always play by its own rules, and even though I mentioned earlier that it doesn't, it's quite difficult to tell if you are winning or losing at the game and what the actual end is going to be like based on how you've performed. I did sometimes find it somewhat frustrating that the game doesn't always play by its own rules, and I can kind of appreciate sometimes when it does it for like thematic reasons. There's one set of characters where to find out if there's it's fucking horrible. So much in this game is so bleak. There's a character, well, a set of characters, a husband and a wife together, and the only way that you can find out if the husband and wife, or the husband especially, is a visitor is if his knuckles don't have bruises on them, because if they do have bruises on them, he's human because he beats his wife. If he doesn't have bruises, then he's a visitor because he's not beating his wife anymore.
I found a video questioning whether he was even her wife. She was even his wife. Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, we don't really know. She never says a word. So there are some like that, but there are others, you know, and the stoner guy, right? So if the stoner guy doesn't have red eyes, he is a visitor because he should have red eyes because he's high all the time.
Yeah,
that kind of thematic stuff is cool, but there are some times when it's just like, no, this person is a, you know, if they don't have a rash on their hands, then they're a visitor. And I at times have struggled to see why that's, or how that's justified, and just feels a little bit unfair.
Yeah, I sort of agree with you. I felt that that's probably one of the main instances in which the gameplay sort of butts its head up against the thematic side of the game. So obviously, like, a lot of the game's themes are centered around certain. Well, okay, I think this is recency bias, but I remember texting you, and for a while I just referred to the FEMA agents as ICE agents.
Yeah,
because like it basically they talk about in the videos and reading and stuff I was doing about this. It talks about how governments use sort of their own armed, I was going to call them militia, but armed sort of agents and provocateurs to sow unrest within their population, so that they again, like, put them off kilter. They don't know what's true, what's not true. And I think that's absolutely true with this, because there was, certainly in my first playthrough, I hadn't really encountered many of the visitors, and I was like, I found myself questioning, like, are the visitors actually real in this game, or are these just constructs by the FEMA agents to make me question everything I'm doing?
Which on topical analysis, coming out of a Russian developer, feels inherently more applicable to the United States.
It does,
which is why we were calling it ICE.
Yeah.
And it wasn't actually really at the state that it is now when this game was developed and brought out, but it is like incredibly appropriate at this point. And that is, I think that kind of got to both of us in our heads of like, this is very like a very strong commentary on fear of immigration and otherism and is relates very strongly to what we're seeing happening in the real world, but not necessarily in Russia. As far as I'm aware, I guess they're just very anti-Ukraine, but we don't really know. But there probably is that undertone to it, where he is talking about like, governments will wage sort of almost civil unrest in their own people against what they decree as not their own people, to cover up, gain power through fear. I mean, we're seeing that in this country as well. So you're right. Whether that's actually the message that he's going for, I'm not sure. It seems to be more of, rather than like an acceptance of outsiders, it doesn't seem like the message is that accepting, visitors is the way to do it, because it's still, to get the best or better endings, you are supposed to be murdering the visitors.
Yeah.
It's more, it seems to be talking more about like how human connection is valuable to deal with the threat of the inevitable death that we will all experience, and that you must let people in. The guy that we're playing as is described as a hermit and a loner who's not left his house in such a long time, and one of the endings kind of shows that when the world kind of or that the sun explodingness dies down during the winter months, when you're all hunkered away and everybody can start to rebuild life again, that the game ends with your character being disappointed, almost as if this catastrophe, this apocalyptic impending doom, actually gave him a purpose and gave him a reason to speak to other people, and he's losing that now because the world will right itself and he will be a hermit and a loner again. So that's how I kind of gauged it.
Yeah, no, I
what he was trying to go for.
I do agree with you, and I think we'll come back to a lot of those points that you made. But just to sort of touch back on the previous one, like with like America and ICE, I found myself, again, recency bias, and you're absolutely right that the analogy doesn't fully mesh, because you're actually meant to be shooting the visitors in the face. Unlike
or at least letting the government take them away.
But I find even down to different things, like the way that the FEMA officers or agents dress, because they're walking around fully covered up, not giving you their identity. Quite
aggressive after a while.
They're aggressive. They don't explain themselves after a while, and they put arbitrary things in, like rules in place that aren't quite clear. I even find like some of their comments, like, so I was, and again, I fully understand I might be reaching, but I just find it interesting that the sort of tonic to the visitors murdering within the house is a cat that you can let in, like you've spoke on earlier, and that just reminded me of Trump during his election campaign, saying that the all the immigrants are eating the cats and dogs. And I was like, is this deliberate? But then,
about that.
In saying that, like I was saying, like you were saying before, the city design looks distinctly Eastern European.
Certainly the houses and stuff. Yeah.
I kind of wanted to touch on things like the apartment buildings being burned down by the government, who are apparently there to help. Massacres later in the game in the streets by the FEMA agents around your house, that creating an atmosphere that they are a government completely ill-equipped to deal with the situation, and they're also quite repressive. You also start...
they're using force. So from the get-go, they've got armed soldiers protecting the FEMA agents while they're going around evicting civilians. We also begin to sort of stumble across what appear to be like pirate radio stations giving out conspiratorial news and off the record advice on how to find the visitors as well. So like the ear one, for example, I don't think FEMA ever released that. I think that's that's a contentious one, isn't it?
Yes. I saw someone saying that they thought it was a sort of hijacked broadcast by the visitors, but that didn't seem to make sense to me, given that it seems people seem to think it was the most reliable way to figure out the visitors if you've got bugs.
I've seen the complete opposite of that, where people have said that one video I watched, the guy said he didn't think that he'd ever seen anybody have the thing in the ears whatsoever until there was one that he found. I only found one.
Yeah.
I also found one who had like gooey wax coming out of his ears. And also when the vigilante comes to your house and he tests you, if you try and show him your ears, he says that's not what you're talking about. That isn't a way to check if a visitor's real or not.
But he's also, it appears that he's a visitor. Because when you shoot him, he gets the pixelated face when you get that ending. When you shoot each other in the sort of Mexican standoff. That's
true. Yeah, I didn't think of it like that. I just assumed it was just because you just got a headshot on him and that was actual like censorship of...
His face is gone.
Before you carry on beating the shit out of it. I didn't actually click until quite a few playthroughs through that he's the brother of your neighbor.
Oh, I didn't click that at all. Yeah, that's a new one. That's new info to me.
Yeah, because at one point he talks about how much of a pussy his brother is and how he hates the wife, and you can say to him like, "Oh yeah, his house burnt down. I'm sorry, he's gone."
Interesting.
So that's obviously the house to the left of yours, where your neighbor is. But yeah, that's that guy's brother.
That's a great one that I didn't notice. Yeah, and they also talk about they think at some point, whether it's from the beginning or it happens at some point throughout the game, that FEMA also get infiltrated by the visitors. And
there's definitely part of the reason, news station as well, isn't there?
And part of the reason that they're wearing the get-up is because it's hiding all the different symptoms that you would see if they knocked on your door without their suits on.
Is that from the conspiracy guy? Does he say something about that?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Because there's another. There's like just becomes sort of riots after a while, isn't there? Because I guess people are taking, or FEMA are taking people, just any old people, killing them even if they're visitors or not, and then people start to like break into these internment camps, don't they?
Yeah, and it seems that they're actually infecting them in these internment camps. The ones that end up in there that aren't infected are being infected by a parasite. Yeah. Because again, another reason that they might be wearing these suits is that the government apparently knew from the beginning that the visitors were coming from a parasite, and they just weren't telling people.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to touch on...
I wonder what that could be related to. some disease spreading that the government fuck up the handling of.
Yeah. Also want to touch on, again, like sort of linking back to what we're sort of, again, sorry folks listen to this, we are going to be ping-ponging about, which is why you really
while we're doing that, fuck
game.
ICE.
Yeah.
I didn't say that earlier, but fuck ICE.
Yes,
Carry
absolutely.
on.
I wanted to touch on the staying indoors with the sun burning people, because... I mean, for all intents and purposes, again, we're talking about what seems to be an Eastern European city. The sun is essentially a massive nuclear reactor, which sort of also gave me sort of Eastern European Chernobyl vibes, because you can go outside. Again, like government cover up, the government know that more than they're letting on, and they're just trying to sort of force the people. And then again, that links into what they're wearing. I just think there's so much... what's the word, like visual nods and discussions about different things.
Yeah, there are so many layers to so many elements of this game. But
we'll come to this
from a visual standpoint.
I was going to say later, but we'll come to this at some point throughout the podcast and jumping about. There's a good few sort of nods to different novels and texts and things like that that sort of talk about government control that I thought were really interesting.
Right, yeah. There's also a lot of like literary references as well, isn't there? Because obviously the Pale Human is inspired by Judge Holden, which is like
he's
McCarthy
one of the ones
character.
ahead. Yeah, Judge
fucking terrifying. That picture you can see of him with a big white face and a massive
spot
grin.
on, isn't it? I do have it written down here. What's the book called? Because I went and added it.
Blood Meridian.
Yes, I went and added it to. I like Cormac McCarthy. I've read The Road.
I'd quite like to read that as well. Yeah, I like that film. I like that film a lot.
So I've added it to a list. I'm going to read that at some point because I think it looks or sounds really interesting. Because apparently this is Cormac McCarthy's best work is Blood Meridian. People talk about it being.
Yeah, and there's some like discussion over whether actually it's based on sort of a historical character as well.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a fictional character mostly, but probably inspired by some evil son of a bitch going around scalping and raping.
Well, which again, like, is another sort of thing that I wrote down in my notes when I found out like this Blood Meridian thing. So it's basically tells the story of Old West America of a gang of scalp hunters, which again to me immediately suggested another analogy for the game could have been Native Americans coming, like having their country and basically invaded and raped by European immigrants. And I was like, that sort of fits as well. There's all that. We've done the two visitors killing. Yeah, another analogy, since we've touched on it as well, is that you've got to enter a photo. So it's one of the endings that you can get is you can become a FEMA agent.
I did that by accident.
No, did you? Because apparently that's one of the many things that eventually links back to your poster that talks about loneliness and isolation. Because he mentions the poster and he just sort of wishes he was alone again when he's found himself in this. Basically the second of the three numbers is 451, which apparently there's a book called 451, which is about government overreach called Fahrenheit 451, which is a book about government overreach, which I thought was another one of those interesting nods.
That is cool.
Again, like, because apparently there's over 58 characters in this game and there's 11 different endings. So unless we're going to be here for weeks, we're never going to be able to cover them all. So I thought, for starters, do you want to give me some of your thoughts on some of your favourite guests that have stuck with you? Maybe they don't have to be your favourite. They maybe just have to be some of the ones that have sort of stuck with you the most. Because I actually find that there's some of the guests that sort of come and go and they don't really leave a mark on you. It's like, whether that's just because the story didn't speak to me as a person, which I think is probably the most likely thing. But then there's others that I'm like, oh my God. And then you start like piecing together different things. Like I wish I put together the vigilante being your neighbour's brother, because that would have been an interesting one. But yeah, is any that have stuck with you particularly?
Yeah, definitely the man and the wife, which I've talked about already.
Did you just find that profoundly uncomfortable?
Yes. Yeah. I just didn't like him at all. Even if he's not doing anything wrong at that period in time, when you have him in the house, he's still kind of like overbearing and controlling, and it was just very, very uncomfortable. The man with the bow tie is disgusting. He's the one who talks about his girlfriend was taken away, I think by FEMA probably, but I think it turns out, if you keep talking to him, that basically his girlfriend was a corpse. And his hand has also gone gangrene. I don't know if that's from continually handling a corpse or, feeding the old horse down there, and that's what happens. I don't know, but that's fucking horrible. One of them that I really like is the guy in his underwear, because that spoke to me a lot.
Is that Hunter S. Thompson or the government guy?
The guy who's got like a flat cap and shades on.
He's the one that just reminded me of Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah, and he's always just being like, "Why the fuck is nobody else just in their pants? Have you seen how hot it is?" Yeah. Like for me, like I was sweating at the start of this episode because I shut my door and had a coffee. So like, that guy really spoke to me. Like I would definitely be pants and nothing else. Like I can't believe everybody else is totally cool with it. I mean, visually, quite a few of them stick with you, don't they? Because some of them are just absolutely disgusting to look at. One of my least favorite characters was that twat with the energy can hat on, and he's like drinking his. Oh yeah. He's gone basically yellow because he's had so many energy drinks, and he's flying about your house because he can't keep still. The little girl, obviously, the neighbor's daughter. Again, that spoke to me quite profoundly. Just this little girl without her dad and just wanting him to come back and almost.
Did you ever turn her away?
Absolutely, of course not. No, I almost did the first time I played it because I thought, has she now been turned? And has she killed her dad?
I think Danny O'Dwyer said the same thing in the No Clip podcast. He was like, that was awful, that whole bit.
Yeah, and the worst thing is that every single time she was in my house, she either got killed by another visitor or taken by FEMA. I never managed to protect her, and that really
I didn't either. I only got her. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't think I ever protected her either. But there's a couple of times where I did just, you're not getting in. But I only did it when because that's brutal. I did it if she was like, oh, but he's in my space, and I'm like, well, look, do you want to come in or not? It was my thought. It's like, if you are just going to not come in because someone's standing in a space that you want to stand in, well, see ya.
Yeah, I do like the kind of links to certain other people that they don't want to. Yeah. They don't want to be around them, so they won't come in unless you get rid of someone. I wish I could have got further into the story of the man with the stitched mouth, who kind of ends up looking like the Joker a little bit, because when he takes his stitches out, he's just got this like red, almost a smile on him. And he's got these really weird, like pointy sort of.
I never got him on my own.
The funniest thing is that the time I got the good end, the quote unquote, I suppose, good ending, where you hunker down in the basement, there aren't any visitors down there, and then you come back up and resume life. He was the only guy I had in the house. So I was stuck in a basement with a man who's just talking gibberish, who's had his like mouth thrown up. I think if you have him in there long enough, don't you? You can try and, because he's obviously foreign, you can try and get in touch with the foreign embassy from where he's from. But they say like, sorry, we haven't got any room, we can't take anybody else, so you're stuck with him anyway. I never actually got any of those things where, like, if you have them for X amount of time and speak to, they will give you a number for so and so. I never got any of those.
Which is annoying. Phone number, specifically phone number ones.
Yeah.
I don't think I did either. I didn't really get any of the, because the FEMA agents kept coming along and stealing them when I was trying to work on them. I didn't really get any of the underground stuff. So I got into the basement. I never found the tunnels. Apparently your parents are buried down there as well.
Well, that's the thing, because there's there's a number that you can unlock somewhere in the game where it's basically like a telephone roulette. And you dial the number, and it's supposed to just connect you with a completely random person, and you can have a conversation with them. And there's a part of that conversation that you can have where your character says something about how basically he didn't like his dad, or he hated his dad, or something like that. Yeah. So that kind of implies that he has killed his dad, because this is his parents' house. And that kind of rings a bit truer when the cult leader comes to your house, because he will tell you that death has occurred in your house, even if you haven't killed anybody at all, or no one has died in your house. Yeah. So I've seen people sort of linking that to the fact that the death in your house that they're talking about is probably that your guy has killed either his wife, who I'm assuming is the picture next to the phone, or his dad / parents. So yeah, I think what we don't know about our own guy is quite interesting as well. But I also really hate the guy in the purple headband. I think I liked him the least. The one who's desperate to see somebody get killed at first. He just wants to see somebody get shot in front of him and see the life, like disappear from their eyes, and then he changes his mind and he's actually really, really scared and hopes that you protect him. I'm pretty sure he was a visitor in my game. In fact, I think I didn't even care that he was a visitor in my game. I just thought, I'm going to let you have a look. Off you go. And the first character as well. Oh, I mentioned earlier the sort of East End London gangster. I hated that guy.
Oh, I hated that guy. The guy
everything that he said was disgusting.
Yeah.
But yeah, the cashier lady, because she's obviously one of the, I think, only two outside of the special characters who don't come in. She's only one of the two people at your door who will always.
Yeah, there's the first lady, the cashier lady who gets confused. Big Mama is always infected.
But the first two characters are always the same that come to your house. It's always the tall guy.
He's always a guest, and
he's always not. He's always human. Yeah, and then it's always the cashier lady after that. I quite like her, and in fact, she kind of suckered me in as well, which is where I started to think I'm terrible at this game, because one of the more obvious visitors, two of the most obvious visitors, have suckered me into thinking they're human, which actually speaks to the quality of the writing in this game. But as she goes along, she basically just says she is a visitor. She starts to get really, really scared. She says, I'm worried I might actually be one. And then she just says, yeah, I'm a visitor, kill me, sort of thing. And her face is so distressed as well. That kind of sticks with me.
I like in hindsight, it's a really smart. I was going to say it's smart, but in hindsight, it says to me that this is like the almost a tutorial for the game. It's teaching you. So because the fetus lady is.
I failed the tutorial then.
Yeah, she, like you say, she eventually just lays it out there and tells you that she's a thing, and she will fail every single test that you give her.
And she gets sort of confused as to why she's failing, or her reasons don't really make sense.
And then the sort of aggressive bar drunk guy, he will pass all the tests, but his mannerisms, the way he acts angrily, like you don't quite trust him. There's something I don't quite like about him, but it sort of teaches you like just because they're absolute bell ends doesn't mean that they're automatically going to be visitors, which I thought was quite good.
Exactly, yeah. Just because we've got that one asshole who listens to the podcast doesn't mean he's not a valued listener.
Well, exactly, and it did. In saying that, it's made me realize I didn't actually conclude my original point when we were talking about our frustrations with sort of when the gameplay butts up against the thing. And I just think it's one of those interesting things where I think for the story to work properly, it has to mix up and question and have you constantly questioning whether people are visitors or guests. And I think if they made it a bit more mechanically sound in terms of, oh, you failed that test, so you're a visitor, it doesn't have quite the same narrative effect that will stick with you, because you can gamify it in a way that this game doesn't necessarily, at least in the face of it, doesn't allow you to gamify it. We did discover a video that, a web page that tells you what people will fail if there's certain people will have certain triggers always if they're a visitor, and they'll always pass on certain things. So you can gamify it if you're willing to take to Google, but they're not always a visitor. So if you were gamifying it on your own, I guess, you can't just guarantee that someone's a visitor every time, which I didn't realize, because you and I had that conversation over text, I don't know if you'd read it somewhere or whatever, or we just assumed that visitors are always visitors. So I was some that I'd found visitors in previous playthroughs I was just straight up killing them as soon as they walked in. Yeah. And then they're a bin bag. And I thought, oh, what? Hold on. This obviously is, because there is a roguelike element to this. It is very RNG after those first two people. Certain things will always happen. The pale visitor's always going to show up. Fema's always going to show up at the same time. The bald guy, I think, is always going to show up as well. Yeah. The main characters, I suppose, that are going to come in your house, they will be totally random, and whether they're a visitor or not, most of the time is totally random. Yeah. And then, as we said earlier, some of them will be kind of fucky to decide whether they're a visitor or not. There's the dreamer guy, the one who's got a hood over his head, looks kind of I think that's based on some other kind of image, and I can't remember what the image is supposed to have been.
but he will be a visitor if he's got yellow teeth, clean fingernails, and red eyes, which is the total opposite of what you're supposed to look for.
Yeah.
He's only a human if he's got dirty fingernails and white teeth. So there doesn't, getting good at this game really does require a lot of retries.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's not a very long game, or just looking at something on the internet.
Yeah, I think like if I was to offer one criticism of the game,
the save method is a bit shit.
Which it ties. We'll come back to that because it ties itself into the mushroom ending, right?
Yes, exactly. And they have patched in a save and quit because the developers have admitted that the save state or the save method, which is just drinking kombucha, which you then have to reorder. You only get one save, and then you have to reorder it if you want to save again. They did accept that was too harsh, and so they've got like a save and quit option that you can use at any time. But you, of course, have to load back into that game again from having quit the game initially. That's the kind of only, and then you can't choose save files. There's only one save file.
Yeah.
So I was kind of finding that like the save and quit and the kombucha save files are actually independent of one another, to the effect that I did the save and quit, which I believe is like you can only reload that once, because after I'd reloaded the one that I did the save and quit for and carried on playing the game through to the end, the next time I went to continue, it took me back to my kombucha save from a couple of days earlier. It's just kind of weird.
So basically you get one option to save and quit, or you've got to complete a run, basically.
Yeah, which I ended up just not bothering saving at all, because I suddenly realised like there's clearly so many different things that's going to happen in this game. Like I really don't care anymore what happens. I'm just going to roll with it. So I even got that achievement for having never saved in an entire playthrough.
Yeah,
I must have just smashed through from one bit to the end.
No, I agree with you. Because you're right, there's so many variables, and I found often that I was working on trying to get one particular ending, and then something would happen that just either the person would get killed or the FEMA agents would come along and take the person away. That would
just ruining it for me.
Just absolutely stick a spanner in the works. So I agree. I sort of ended up with saving, just thinking, doesn't matter. Like when I'm ready to play, I'll just complete a run and then put it down, rather than
definitely
thinking I'm going to play for a session. I will say, and I think it's just one of these things that is because I haven't played a lot of visual novels, if I'm completely honest. One critique I would probably have of the game is I found some of the game became quite tedious after a while. Like I annoyed me that I was sort of forced to do it, but I became quickly really uninterested in dialing in the radio frequency every morning. Because you had to pick up, but then you had to do it to get phone numbers to progress. So I found myself just quickly tuning and then zooming through it without reading it.
Me too. There is a lot of So there, unfortunately, as with it being a roguelike game, you're just going to have to sit through the same characters saying the same things. Yeah. Especially the guaranteed ones, like the Pale Visitor. Just get on with it, mate. Mm-hmm. Just don't click. And incredible game design in this game. Excuse me, where X is progress through the dialogue, but only A is select something, so you can't ever spam through the text and accidentally select the wrong thing, because it's always set on I'm alone when the dude asks you. So I was so glad they implemented that. That was the most quality of life thing they could have ever put in any game.
Try to think of like people that have sort of stuck with me that we haven't already covered. The big, like we said, we kind of touched on her, Big Mama. I just quite liked her because, a bit like the cat lady, who was also one of my favourites, she just doesn't really hide what she is. She just becomes increasingly belligerent and obvious. And I found that her, so like if we are to take my sort of original assertion at the beginning of the podcast about how just making it to the next day is success in this game, she felt like she was just doing the same thing. However, she was on the other side of the fence. She knew she was a visitor, and she just wanted to make it, and she just wanted to carry on, and she didn't care whether she hurt people along the way. She just wanted to make it to the next day, and she was just completely unapologetic in that way, in which the player often becomes like that. I think, certainly once you've done a few runs, you just become extremely mechanical in it. You're like, oh well, you're dead this time. See ya. Move on to the next one.
There are endings that reflect that as well, aren't they?
Did you tie together the FEMA agent and the girl that's lugging her dead husband about?
I never got her.
Okay, so you encounter a FEMA agent who's looking to hide, who initially pretends he's not a FEMA agent. And then you also there's another guest that you can
He's
encounter.
never a visitor, is he, that guy?
No, I don't think so. There's another person that you can meet who appears at your door with the corpse of her dead husband.
Yeah.
So the FEMA agent basically...
she's also never a visitor.
No. However, we will pin in that and come back to that. So the FEMA agent, quickly, once you sort of speak to him a little bit, it becomes quickly apparent that he's on the run and basically in hiding. He initially tells you that he just found the suit and put it on.
Yeah.
But eventually it admits that no, he's a FEMA agent. He's just sort of ran away. And he ran away because basically there was a woman so basically what was happening at these, and if you want to add anything to what I'm saying, feel free to jump in at any point. But basically when the FEMA agents are taking people away to these quarantine zones, this is in a lot of cases, if they turn up and they are not infected, they are becoming infected. Or they're and eventually they're dying in this quarantine zone. Everyone, whether they're infected or not infected. So a woman turned up one night and asked to see her husband, and she was informed that her husband had died. And so she asked for the body so that she could go and bury the body, and she was denied, saying that it's not protocol. So she ended up hanging around for days and days on end, to the point that 2 FEMA agents broke with protocol and gave her husband's dead body. Yep. And then they had to obviously run away because they were found out, and that's how he ends up at your house. Turns out that the woman that was looking for her husband's body is this woman that also turns up at your house with her husband's dead body. However, her husband was infected, so he has a parasite in him. So what happens is, if you keep him in the house for too long, his body... She
puts him in the bath, right?
Yeah. He infects you, the player, and start... And then you become a visitor over time as well. So I thought that I just really liked how those sort of two independent characters sort of tied each other together. They linked with each other, and then there's also sort of direct repercussions on you, depending on what you do with the players.
And she won't come in if the FEMA guy's there either, which is quite... Or, of course, if the fat shirtless guy's
in your bath, yeah. Here's another one. I've opened up his little wiki page because he was another one that sort of I found funny.
And the FEMA guy as well, actually. He always has red eyes and fungal armpits, but again, he's always a human. So he's probably been killed by a lot of dudes without realizing.
Yes. So the fat guy that turns up and gets into your bath that you were talking about, he's an ex-minister. Apparently, at first, he acts really grateful towards the protagonist for allowing him inside. Even more should he be given his amenities upon request. So he asks for different things, doesn't he? He always provides some legal tender in the form of crumpled currency as a form of compensation for having his request fulfilled. If the protagonist rejects this reward or mentions how it would be worthless at a time like this, he at first scoffs at the idea and produces something else as a reward instead. After being told about it the second time, he gets frustrated and begins to reprimand the protagonist about his previous stature, entitling him to more respect. When pressured about his involvement with FEMA, he's uncompromising in his refusal to reveal any of the details. He seems to do this not out of regret or respect for the organisation, but out of professional principles. So apparently he has a lot to do with allowing FEMA into the city initially.
That's right. Yes. I never got this guy, but yeah, I did read that about him.
Oh, did you not? I got him in my first playthrough. Yeah, he claims to have signed an NDA, so says he can't talk about it. But yeah, he seems to be a lot, and he is someone who was obvious because eventually FEMA, if you live for long enough, FEMA take over, and they basically people like him just don't have a place anymore. So he's sort of overthrown. Anyone else, or do you want to talk about some endings that we haven't talked about yet that have stuck with you?
Yeah, let's get on to the endings.
Okay. Well, I'll go first this time. So my favorite ending. Did you get this one? The Child of Doom ending, where the baby fetus.
I'm very impressed you managed to get that, because that is the most difficult one to get.
I will be honest, I had to follow a guide to get it, but I did eventually.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised because she has to be a visitor. I mean, you've got 1 in 56 chance she shows up,
Yeah,
and then a 1 in 2 chance that she's actually the right type of person.
yeah.
Just the one you're not really supposed to want.
No, so this one seems to, so the way that I took away from this and the ending that I sort of got here seemed to suggest that this was like The Omen, almost like the movie, which links into, I saw some fan theories that the sun is actually being sort of powered by some sort of god or higher power, and they realize that in burning outside in the sun, which is part of the reason they tell you inside, is sort of giving this deity more power, which is why these sort of, you know how you get the death cult that come in, they sort of have a handle on what this is, and so they're almost worshipping this deity,
straight up embracing it, aren't they?
Yeah, so they're allowing themselves to like let the deity power itself up. But basically, this woman that's sort of known as the seductive woman turns up at your house, and she'll stay in the protagonist's bed throughout her stay. Each night, the seductive woman's belly, however, seems to grow larger. When the player questions about the belly, she dismisses the protagonist's concerns as paranoia and anxiety. By the third night after her arrival, her stomach reaches its maximum size, which is why she's difficult, because you've got to keep her alive for so long, and she's so rare to turn up. The following day, the protagonist finds her lifeless body sprawled out across the bed, her abdomen torn from her and open and bloodied, as if it exploded from within. This marks the completion of the pregnancy process, and then you've got to sort of survive another couple of days. But due to due to the length of the process,
the belly is pixelated, which again is because she's a visitor. But she has to be a visitor for this to have worked in the first place, anyway. But
yes, but yeah, due to the length of the process, you need to encounter the seductive woman. Maximum of the 9th night in order to finish all the birth stages before day 14, where the other endings trigger, which make it impossible to finish the birth and collect the fetus.
Like getting people too late in the game to actually unlock all the 4 conversations effectively that you need to have with them.
After the seductive woman's death, the player must then interact with the bedroom curtains, where something unknown can be seen moving beneath them. Clicking on the curtains plays the sound of a crying baby and triggers the fetus's first appearance inside the house, which is fucking bonkers.
Yeah, not as bonkers as the last appearance you see of it.
Its first hiding spot is in the office on one of the ceiling fan blades. Just climbs up there. Its second,
the Antichrist.
Yeah, its second spot is in the bathroom inside a washing tub placed beneath the bathtub. Each time the fetus is found, a crying sound could be heard. After interacting with the curtains and locating it in both hiding spots, the player can return to the bed. Step 3 can be fully completed within a single day. The next night after collecting all the fetus pieces, the player can no longer interact with the other windows. Looking out through the peephole will automatically trigger the cutscene associated with the ending One Child of Doom. At night, the player can look out of the left blinded window to see that the fetus has transformed into a child. It appears pressed against the hound's chest, feeding on the dog's milk. However, it's not required to achieve the ending.
That's the one I was talking about.
So the trivia.
Hey, the pale visitor says that dogs rule the world right now.
That's true. So, yeah. Trivia that's on this page. They think it's like saying perhaps a child is reference to the Antichrist. Seductive woman can mean Babylon the Great, who gave birth to the Antichrist. The Bible also mentions that this appearance will be associated with the Great Tribulation, as a result of which a large number of people will die. Perhaps this moment is reflected in the game. The image of the child drinking milk of a dog was likely inspired by the images of Romulus and Remus, who fed upon the milk of a she-wolf.
Yeah.
Wild
and of
ending.
course, everybody celebrates you for dealing with the Antichrist and pronounces you the savior that's going to keep the darkness away. And I'm pretty sure it's very heavily implied they then crucify you because they carry you off with a bunch of nails and wood.
They do. Yeah.
They're just going to crucify you to keep it away.
Yeah. That was my favorite ending.
Fucking horrible.
The first ending I got was being killed by the vigilante. I made it to night 12 or something like that, and he just came and we shot each other, then I beat him to a pulp. And that was
become the vigilante
And
thereafter. Anybody with a weapon dies without question.
Yeah. I guess my two questions for you are favorite endings that stuck with you, and also what was the first one you got?
First one I got was Welcome to FEMA, which I got completely by accident, because I guess that's most likely the time that a player is going to get that ending is in your first playthrough, because I was so, I was constantly ringing the FEMA number that they give out to you.
Yeah, and I figured out quite quickly that you could use the FEMA notes that you get given to sort of guide who they were picking up. So I was using them quite liberally. So I'm not surprised that you got that in there.
Yeah, I did the same thing as well. So I was giving out FEMA notes. I was ringing that number, and if you do that enough times, then and you're fully compliant, I think, with FEMA when they come to the door asking for people, then you get this ending where you basically join ICE. You don a mask, and you then become part of the horrible kind of overreaching government, and you're left with this shot of you in a FEMA mask watching burning, which I'm assuming is bodies being burned. That was so that's the first one I got. The one that stays with me, definitely the pale visitor one, where you just kind of let him in and he murders you on the spot. Just the text in that scene where it's talking about how you didn't have anybody to mourn you. It's almost as if you never existed, and how you're just in an endless void now, and that's the end of your existence, kind of thing. Very, again, speaking to that profound existential fear of death. Just that's how people can feel. I have felt in times, just when it ends, it's all just going to be horrible. Nothing, everything will carry on, and I'm just a blip in a timeline that will never ever remember me. Jesus Christ. Actually, probably one of my favorite endings is one that I haven't actually got myself. It's the Yes, I'm a Murderer ending, where you kind of have to game it a little bit to kill humans.
Is this where you got to kill so many humans? Yeah.
But of course you have to then manage that with the pale visitor. You can't just go killing, like letting people in and then murdering every single person in your house, because then you'll be alone and you won't trigger the ending, because he will come in and kill you before you've done it. So you kind of have to wait till later in the game and then kill them, like in a wanna sort of thing. But that's the game where the ending where you basically, your character just becomes so paranoid of everybody that through fear he's just becoming a murderer of just anybody who's in his house, and the rest of the guests just kind of revolt and beat the shit out of him and just kick him out of his house into the street so that he burns alive in the next day. Just fucking horrible. I mean, there aren't any endings here that aren't horrible, other than maybe the one where you have to jump into the hole, which is another one of the sort of convoluted endings that you get, where you end up meeting death.
Yeah.
And death kind of just sort of embraces you and calms you down and sort of just says to you that you can relax now. It's, everything's over. Nothing's going to hurt you here. And that's it. And your guy's kind of lying in this field next to the house again, with the loneliness and isolation house from the picture in his room. How about you? What else have you got for endings that?
I mean, those were probably the ones that stuck with me the most. I will say, though, that, again, we've touched on this, but because there's 58 characters and 11 different endings, the permutations that this game can pull together is absolutely impossible to discuss this in a single podcast. So I really do, like, if you've somehow been listening to this before you've played this game and you haven't moved on, or you haven't stopped so that you can go and play this game, it really is worth your time. Because
big time. It's fantastic.
I think it's almost impossible to explain this game completely within a podcast. I think we've touched on a lot of the sort of allegories that the game's shooting for, and the sort of general themes, without going too much into detail about it. I guess the only other ending that we've touched on that I sort of. It was one of the first. The only reason it sort of stuck with me is probably because it's the first ending that I consciously shot for, was the one with the cult where you end up burning yourself and all them alive. Because I quickly realised I think the first time I played this, one of them ended up getting taken away by a FEMA agent.
I was always getting that. I just kept having to reload the save until they didn't take him.
So that was one of the ones. Again, I just, as soon as they arrived, I'd been saving up FEMA bits of paper, so I just started dishing them out to everyone else that wasn't
smart.
wasn't one of the cult members, and then they went off. I'm slightly annoyed because the nun also arrived at that point, but she wouldn't come in the house.
I didn't get her
either, so I didn't get to explore her very much. Apparently, she's just an absolute boot. She's never thankful. It turns out that
she's quite horrible.
Yeah, it turns out that because she talks about how her like church or a convent was overrun, but basically it turns out that people had been trying to look for safety with her in her church, and she had just been not letting people in, so people sort of turned and just went rage on her and forced their way in and then chucked her out. So she's out because she wasn't very kind. I think that's probably it. Is there any more closing thoughts you want to talk about this game before we wrap things up? Have you played many other visual novels, or is this sort of one of the first? Because again, it's not a genre I've really poked at beyond like I don't know, would you call the Walking Dead games one of these? Like no, probably not.
Yeah, mixed with an adventure game.
Yeah,
more. Yeah. I've played obviously Danganronpa.
Oh yes, I've played a bit of that.
Yeah,
you're right. That's a similar type of game.
Yeah, it is, where people are getting murdered in a school, and outside the world is ending, and you have to kind of put people on trial and figure out if they're the murderer. And so that's definitely a lot more gamified for some elements of it than this one is. I have played some of 428 Shibuya Scramble, which is a full-on kind of visual novel where you're just making choices of how the story is going to progress. I never finished that one though. I have wanted to play more in my time, like I did get on Steam like the what do you call that, the nonary games or something.
Oh yeah,
which obviously you will have as a result of that. They're supposed to be really, really good. But I guess the non-visual novel style of this, with the way the game kind of is, we've probably played a fair few of those types of things that seem to come out. Papers, Please, as I said earlier, a very clear kind of probably an influence, I guess, but it certainly feels reminiscent gameplay wise to this one, where it's all about humanity and the rejection or acceptance of certain people and traits and things like that. But this is definitely one. I suppose Mouthwashing could probably be kind of the same sort of thing.
I've played 40 minutes of that. I need to go back to that. I really liked what I played of it.
Yeah, that's excellent. I would just kind of fresh start that and give that one a go. It's only like a couple of hours long. I thought obviously the visuals of this game, certainly the character design, as I said, incredibly unsettling, horrible to look at a lot of these people. The music as well, although very few tracks altogether. I think that guy that I said about who had the hood on earlier, the one who's like not sleeping and she keeps dreaming stuff, apparently he has different music to everybody else, but I never noticed that.
No, I didn't either.
But the sort of during the day music theme is it's quite horrible. It's supposed to be kind of it's almost kind of nice because it gets a bit more horrible in the nighttime when it sort of slows down and becomes more discordant. But during the day, the music, it kind of stays in your head, even though it's pretty horrible to listen to. What else about this game sort of stuck with you? I
just think by design, like I've got a lot of time for games like this that are sort of short. In out games. I think that you get a lot of leeway for different things, because this one's got a Metacritic of 75, and I think I mean, on one hand it feels low because this game is so packed full of sort of thought and messaging that I think are really powerful, and it sticks with me in a way that a lot of games do not. But I will say that if this game was any longer or required any more time, I think it would quickly become quite long in the tooth, just by the nature of the way that the player interacts with what's happening on the screen. I think I don't know. I think of these games as almost palate cleansers. They're nice sort of. You get in, sort of have an experience, or if someone's got an idea for a game or a message they want to tell or a gameplay loop they want to explore, it allows the designers to sort of do that, get in and get out without sort of artificially extending the game. And I think I'm very often someone that will probably to the point of annoyance, complain about the spiraling costs of video games and what that means for the consumer in terms of what they purchase and things like that. I think the gaming industry as a whole needs to find a way to be cheaper, because there's a lot of games now that come out. I remember during the Xbox 360 era, for example, that if a game was quite interesting, games were cheap enough that you could just take a punt on it. Whereas I think that often bigger budget games now are so expensive that they're difficult to take a punt on because they are so expensive. Like, if you are going to drop 80 quid on a game, you have to know that you're going to like it. And I think me personally speaking, I wonder sort of anecdotally if a lot of the sort of struggle in sales that games are seeing now is because people are looking at these things as significant investments. It's not just like, oh, I'll get that and see if I like it. You have to be sure, which is why sort of sequels and stuff seem to, at the moment, are doing much better than new IPs. I don't think absolutely. And I think a lot of the time the games industry as a whole takes the wrong messages from these things. They're like, oh, people aren't playing new games. People aren't playing new games because people don't want to drop that amount of money on new games, so they're waiting for sales. And because like, so if it's a new, and then we end up in the sort of sequel hellscape that we're in just now, where people just keep releasing known IPs rather than new things.
Certainly AAA publishers
absolutely do, and I think it's something I need to be more sort of consciously aware of, that there are lots of new IP coming along. And there is a sort of groundswell of these new interesting ideas in a way that games can be sort of interesting again. We don't have to. They don't have to all have dailies. They don't have to all have towers for me to climb to uncover a map. They don't have to have thousands of collectibles for me to find it. There are these sort of games coming along that have really interesting ideas, are small scale, and you can get in and out, and they're because of their sort of lack of size, they are relatively cheap. I mean, this, like you're saying, this was under a tenner, this game.
I mean, it's like 15 quid on Steam, but on Loaded I think we got it for like £8.60 or something.
So I think overall I am hopeful for the games industry because of titles like this that come along, and I'm certainly interested in seeing what what this publisher puts out in the future, and also just what this guy gets up to in the future, because like I was saying before, he's got a few games announced, and a lot of what he's released up to this point seem to be collections of ideas, and then when one sort of takes hold or takes an interest, he seems to have padded this one out into a bigger thing. So I want to see more of that, and in things like Iron Lung that I was talking about before. Like, I want to sort of explore this side of the video game industry that I haven't so far poked at very often.
Yeah, you definitely get, from a smaller development team, one sort of person, you definitely get more of like an identity to certain types of games like this. You can see that like this singular idea that this person has had to create this horribly grim mood and vibe has fully been realized, certainly from the aesthetic element of the game. And I also respect a lot that the mechanical side of the game, while it does still have issues if you don't have the patience to accept that you're not always going to get everything right, and you're not, it can be basically randomized. But the bugs that this game apparently had, problems that people have with the save system, he has gone back and he has updated the game and patched in things to make it more palatable to play and make it less frustrating. And I really respect that these indie developers are sticking with it. Birdcage I talked about last year, the sort of Radiant Silvergun homage. Those developers are constantly updating that game as well. They're listening to the feedback, because it's a lot easier to give feedback to one or two people in a smaller studio, and they're more likely to listen. And they've made the game balance better. They've made the scoring system more fair. Like, I really appreciate when things like this have such a strong vision that is really evident when you play it. But the developers have the conviction to kind of stick with that idea and sort of tweak at it and make it better based on the feedback they get, rather than big publishers that just won't ever do anything like that. Let's just dump it out. We'll patch it if we can be fucked. For the price it is and for the time that it takes, it's a game that, if a game really, if I really value the thought of replaying a game, even if it is because it's short, that game excuse me, that game has done something really right.
Yep.
And that is what this game has done. Like I think I've probably done about 4 or 5 playthroughs of it now. Maybe I'm done with it at this point. I think if I was to play through it again, it would just be trying to game my way to the endings. That initial paranoia and lottery of, you know, figuring out, oh God, I don't know whether I should shoot them or not. That's really powerful when you start. On multiple playthroughs, that can just become frustrating and annoying and just a barrier to actually getting what you want to see. But that does speak to the quality of the writing, and to develop that number of characters and to make every single one of, well, not necessarily every single one of them memorable, but at the time that you see them, they are impactful. That speaks, like, it's really impressive to come out of a couple of Russian guys. I don't know if they've had a really strong localization person or whether they did this themselves. I don't know, but the character development for such a small amount of time on screen, and to make everybody, all these disgusting things, as interesting as they are, that you never really want to turn anybody away unless you know full well they are are a visitor. Yeah. Like, I want to see these people, and I don't want to get rid of.
You feel guilty as well, which is
yeah. Some of them will actually, make you feel guilty from how they react to you sending them away. Some of them will try and bribe you to let them in. So I think it's a really excellent achievement to make this game as worth replaying because of the quality of its design and its writing. And that's what I appreciate the most about this. If not necessarily the gameplay mechanics that can get a bit repetitive if you've played it through so many times, but it is often worth doing anyway, just to see the endings or the new characters, because they've added new characters in since the start of it as well, and a new ending and everything. So they're sticking with it, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I couldn't actually find a review. Like, I sat there, I was watching like videos on this until like midnight last night after David and I had finished playing fucking Project Justice and Worms online, which was a great night.
Project Justice is great.
I stayed up super late, like watching videos, and then I went up to my bedroom in the dark with my phone light while Rach was asleep, trying to find the PC game that had this review in it, and I couldn't find it. I guess it's probably somewhere around September time. I don't know where I put that mag.
Yeah,
I couldn't find anything in Edge either, and I can't see on Wikipedia. Sorry, I can't see on Metacritic that those outlets did review this. So I don't know what the general consensus is outside of some like what look to be smaller websites.
Yeah,
maybe it's because it's PC only. I don't know.
I guess like this is slightly tangential, but I do think there's a valid link here that makes it interesting. Is like, I was reading 2 nights ago. I was reading Edge magazine, and is it this month or last month? I think it's this month. Their front cover is Blood of the Dawnwalker game that's got from the CDPR guys, and I was reading that, and they were talking about how one of the key ideas behind this game, well, basically he left CDPR because he ended up one of the studio heads, and he was managing about a team of 500 people, he said. And he says the annoying thing about it was the higher up you go within the studio, the sort of less time you actually spend working on the game, and you become a sort of manager of people who are working on the game rather than someone that gets to work on the game. So he left. He said he's got this idea. He says on the face of it, when you see the game, people might think it's just going to be a sort of Witcher game in all but name. However, there's like in the main quest in this game is a bit like Zelda Breath of the Wild, in that you start the game and the castle's off in the distance, and you can go to it whenever you want. And the vampires within the castle are holding your family, and you've got to get to the point where you can go and rescue your family. But the rest of the game is made up by side quests, and time is a resource within the game, so that you can't actually do all the side quests. He says a lot of video games will sort of bend over backwards to manipulate time to allow you to complete everything. This game coming out won't let you do that. You've only got a certain amount of time, and they think on any one playthrough, even if you absolutely maximize your time in the game, you might complete 80% of the missions within the game. I was reading that, and I was like, that's really interesting. And actually playing No, I'm Not Human felt a bit like that. That I can see, there's no de facto main ending. There are multiple endings that you can sort of use to piece together different things. And time's a mechanic, so you can only sort of test a certain amount of people throughout the day, so you can only complete a certain amount of actions. And there's no real way, like as we were speaking before, to properly game the system to get everything you want every time. So I just think that's an interesting thing. I wonder if we're going to start seeing more in video games. And this is just, well, mine. I don't want to speak for you, but certainly my first experience of a game that does that. The other one that sort of jumped to memory when we were talking about that is the Dead Rising. Is that the right? Dead. What's the game with the cameraman and the zombies?
Yeah.
The Dead Rising? Yeah. That's another one where time's a mechanic. So yeah, maybe we're going to have to go back to that at some point in the near future. But yeah, I just like the idea that the game's like, here you are in this world, you're like a human, much like real life. There's no sort of overarching main quest, and how life unfolds is it's just these sort of piecemeal moments that play off and ripple away from each other and become this sort of larger story in its own right. And I just thought that this is a small version of that. And I find that really, really interesting and really quite rewarding. Because you're right, you're right, because the sort of general consensus is right. There is something sort of false and stilted about main quests within video games, right? Go here, do this, go here, do this. And there's what's the thing that people always talk about with The Witcher, about how you're looking for your daughter, but you spend like 3 days looking for some old lady's pan that she's dropped in a lake. Like, if that was really like, no, I need to go find my daughter, pal. I don't have time for this. I just thought it's an interesting, fresh take on video games that I'm not used to experiencing.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing that stays with you. Like this, whether you think this game is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece or whatever, there's no way you will play this and not sort of find it pretty unforgettable. Like, you will remember this as a very unique and thought-provoking experience, that's for sure.
Which is super interesting, because I think, I mean, obviously there's crossovers between us both, but we each sort of came to this game, had different experiences, and sort of have pieced together the game in different orders. Different things have stuck with us. And we've not even touched on the girl that appears to have been abused by different people that comes and stands beside your fridge. She just seems like a bit of a brat, but actually when you poke her a little bit more, it seems like she's had a pretty tough life. There's the guy that's clearly autistic. And of course
you can kill her, which
you can.
A lot of games don't let you kill children.
Yeah. There's a guy that's clearly autistic that just has an absolute hairy when he says he wants to have a rental agreement with you, and you're like, dude, the world is ending. What are you talking about? There's just so many different people.
There's the debt guy who just he thinks it's great, the world's ended. He does not in any debt from his gambling anymore.
There's just so many characters. Like I said, there's 50 of them. We could be here all day, but they're all just interesting. They all have their own unique stories. And I think, given where we all come from, having sort of different origins in life, we'll take different things, and different characters will speak to us in separate ways. And I just think it's a wonderfully unique game in that regard. And I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you at least don't try it.
Yeah, agreed. I'm really glad we played it.
I am. With the next podcast, we are continuing for whatever reason. February is horror month now.
We've gone into. It's not even really horror, is it? We're just going into like existential doom month.
Yeah,
like this apocalypses and plagues and burning fire suns and
My suggestion was no, we're not. No, I'm not human. Your suggestion is this game that we're playing next. Do you want to tell us why it came, how and why we're playing this, and how how you came to discover this, and what it is that's interested you about it, I guess.
Hold on a second. I need to get what the fuck? There's no Wikipedia page for it.
Must be.
Oh. Seems to just be. Wait. Under the approach of time to build, Pathologic Remake was retitled Pathologic 2 to be distinguished from Pathologic Classic HD. Pathologic 2 is blah, blah, blah. In October 2024, it was announced that the Bachelor route would instead be dramatically reimagined and released as a standalone sequel, Pathologic 3. Interesting.
Wait, so are they all the variations of the same game then?
Sounds like it, yeah. Is this another Russian developed game as well that we're playing?
God.
I think it is. Yeah, Russian studio Ice Pick Lodge. We're having some weird, a weird like Russian start to the year, which is pretty cursed, to be honest. We are now going to play Pathologic 3, which apparently is a reimagining of, I believe, one of the routes that you can take through a game, but it's essentially a game where you are tasked with, you are a doctor who has 12 days to save this town from a mysterious plague, and you have to diagnose people and make decisions that will kind of shape how the town survives this. And it also plays with a lot of time travel, I believe, as well. It's got it's left quite a mark so far this year. I think it's kind of one of those ones that went under the radar, but has got pretty good reviews and responses everywhere. It's got a very positive rating on Steam, and it's just another type of game that is going to feel quite new to David and I. And it's also a game that came out this year. It's only came out last month in January. So, look at us. We're topical, kind of.
Check us out. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Again, yeah, it's a sort of genre that I'm tangentially aware of, but I've never really poked at. So I think it's going to be fun spending February playing games that I'm not used to playing.
Yeah, definitely.
Any more, Alex, or are we going to bring this home?
Yeah, let's bring it home.
And for some reason,
it's got an 82 on Metacritic, Pathologic.
So it's better than,
apparently,
unequivocally better than No, I'm Not Human.
Yeah, it says it's the most approachable title in the series. Lots of narrative, atmosphere, management levels. What's the lowest rating it's got, and what did they say about it? From The Gamer, which is who we've been looking at for our No, I'm Not Human guides. It's not a game for everybody. It doesn't try to be. It's demanding and deliberately obscure, and asks you to embrace failure as part of its teaching method. That will put. Oh, it sounds like we're just playing the same game again.
Yeah.
Look forward to us trying to be profound again in another episode's time.
Well, yeah, I guess that's it. That brings us to the end of another episode. YouTube podcast gives you YouTube. We have YouTube, where you'll get podcast episodes, shorts, and let's plays in the run up to the game that we're covering for the next podcast. Just search for Winners U Podcast. We've got Blue Sky, at Super Smiley, at Thrillix, and at a Winners U Pod for the podcast. If you've watched us on YouTube, you can also get us on your podcast feed of choice. Just search for Winners U Podcast and we'll pop up. TikTok, search for Winners U Podcast. Alex, have you got any housekeeping?
I do not.
Yeah, well, there he goes. And on that bombshell, I've been David, he's been Alex, we've been a Winners U, and I'm out.
Keep gaming.